So you did mention you were talking about being afraid, and I just it's like it sounds like you've had to muster a lot of courage in your life.
Yeah,
And can you, is there anything you can say about that? Help people who are facing adversity and they feel afraid. It's like how do you have any tips on how to muster that courage?
I don't know if I have any tips because each person is unique and different. And and therefore, so it's not like a band-aid one size fits all.
Sure.
Because everybody also has to be able to acknowledge their dark side, if you want to call it that, or their pain, or whatever the situation is. And whether it's going from for therapy or finding the right niche, but also being able to not only have the compassion and feel, but to also forgive yourself because of past issues that you might have had that you didn't know that there was a pattern that might have been going on that you could not see the forest and the trees, if you want to call it that.
Right. And that
Because everybody's on a different level. So who am I to say, oh, this is how you're supposed to do it if that person is not at that particular level?
sure.
If they're on a much lower
Right.
level and they don't have the or the capacity to even acknowledge that or know how to even go there.
Right. But sometimes the very thing that works for you, you can express that and not in the sense of, hey, this is the way to do it, this is the way. It's just like this is what I've found. And that can be just like a gold mine for somebody. It's like,
Yeah.
oh wow, I didn't is
They
that
also have to be open to it too.
well, sure, sure. Yeah, totally. But I mean, if like can you just say how do you muster courage? Like when to do something and it's hard, how do you how do you get up the gumption to actually take that first step?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. For example, last year, 2 years ago, I lost my sight in my left eye.
Right.
I had a detached retina surgery. I had four of them. And I also had a cataract. And the, and so therefore me being an artist with two eyes was not there anymore.
Right.
And so you talk about courage. So I had to sit in a chair facing down for 6 months, not being able to get up for 5 minutes at a time.
Wow.
Okay, so that just to give you that idea. So both my sons, even though I had help and people would stay over, so that was a big wake-up call for them because mom was not able to do what she was able to do before. Okay, so I'm just, so there's the whole thing in a nutshell. I did not have a choice, but I had to try and save my eye. And that was what I was told to sit in a chair face down and get up only 5 minutes of the hour.
Yeah, it sounds like the
So
way
if you had something, for example, if you had something like a sandwich that somebody gave you, you couldn't eat it within 5 minutes. So it would take you most of the day at little nibbles in order to have that sandwich. Or or to have a drink with a straw. Or to have a cereal, dry cereal with a little milk. So just to give you an idea about there's a perfect example.
well, it sounds like it's a lot of patience and a lot of discipline. But and once again, you it's like you were forced into that decision. It's like you really didn't have a choice.
No.
You just had to do it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a lot of things in your life were like that, have been like that, where you're just
Yeah.
like you just get slammed with this circumstance, and you just it's like either you lay down and say uncle, or you stand up and you move
Yeah.
forward, and you've chosen to stand up and move forward. And that's the thing that's the thing that I find inspiring about you, that you've done that over and over again, because I know it for myself. For just for instance, yesterday, or it was Friday, Thursday, I was out doing errands, and I went to start my car, and like the key broke off in the ignition.
Oh no.
And I was like, what the F?
Yeah.
And I felt, and I finally, after realizing I couldn't get it out myself, and I called the city lock, and it was going to cost between 300 and it's like, I felt, I felt all day, I felt kind of punished by the universe. And I felt very mopey. So, I mean, there's an example of how I'm generally kind of idealistic, but something like that happens and it brings up all my
Yeah. You have
stuff.
no control over it. Yeah.
But by the next day, I was like, okay, yeah, moving forward. But it takes that time to kind of, I don't know, we just have to go through that process of those going through those beliefs and maybe realizing, oh well, and every time I go through something like that, I realize that I'm a little lighter from it. It's like I
Because you're also releasing the thought. You're releasing that energy of the lower energy.
right,
You
and
can realize there's nothing you could have done. It's not like you caused it. It's just something that happened. But
right,
it's how you deal with that.
right. But it shows me all these underlying kind of beliefs. I'm being punished by the universe. It's like, and how is that generally affecting my life? Just that I, and but every time I go through that, I realize there's I realize that the payoff for holding that belief is less and less desirable. So and it's just this, it's a works in progress, a constant thing. But what the reason I mention that is because you've been in these circumstances over and over again where it's like there wasn't a lot of wiggle room. It was just like either you give up or you move forward, and you've just continued to go move forward. And like I said, that's why I find you an inspiration.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think like anything else, we're also given not only choices every day, but situations that, as you said, something can happen just like that key. There's nothing that you did, it just happened. But it's how you deal with it.
right. And that is essentially what we're talking about today
Yeah.
is how each of us has our own play, our own there's been a play written about our lives.
Yeah.
And but it's like how does this character deal with adversity? And that is generally what plays are about, theater.
Yeah.
You take characters, you put them in adverse situations and you see what they're made of.
I mean, it's very interesting because like right now, when I wrote the book, I had a picture in my head of I woke up one day and I had an indigenous person, and this indigenous person was talking to me, like a chief or something like that. And I got the feeling from another past life that I must have been either a daughter or a granddaughter or part of this tribe, whatever you want to call it. And so therefore I was able to, with my art teacher's direction, I was able to paint his story, paint him. But further on down the road, I decided to write his story. And then after that story was done, somebody mentioned maybe there should be a sequel to it. And so there I was like, what? I didn't even think about it at the time. But a couple months later, bing, it came in my head, and I started writing the characters that were in the first story, who stories had never been told. And so like this other one that I'm doing now, one of my other stories called Breezy's Island. So I have the main two characters and someone also mentioned the same thing. Maybe I should do a sequel. Or and I thought, wow, the two characters I've already talked about, but maybe their parents of either side and what their stories were and some other thing and how this whole came to be. It's kind of it's really funny because it's not like I sat down and said, "Oh, I'm going to write another sequel,
Well, it sounds
accompanying it to this book." It somebody
sounds
suggested it and I didn't, well, what I wasn't even thinking about it.
well, it's sort of it sounds like it's kind of popping out of the unconscious, whether it's your unconscious or you wake up from sleep, or the collective unconscious, somebody,
And a
or
suggestion, yeah.
your expression triggers something in somebody else, and that triggers an expression.
Yeah, because like somebody also pointed out to me, just because somebody else suggests it doesn't necessarily mean you should start it.
Sure.
Which, right. And I said, okay, I get that. But so I wasn't sort of looking for that. But
Yeah.
then, so it's not like I was thinking about, oh, I should do this and this and this and this just because when somebody suggested it.
It's a creative impulse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand
So
that.
now, so now I decided, what, maybe I should, I don't know. It's not the same energy as that first one from Toxie, but because I have to think of more, it's a little harder to do
Hmm.
because the one thing about the books, right, the minimum is like 27 pages. So I have to have at least 27 pages
Of plot.
up
Yeah.
from these characters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
as I'm writing it, oh, I'll think of this. Nope, maybe I'll add to this. So
Yeah.
it's like a
Yeah.
work in progress.
But most of your books are about people like you. In other words, people who have had adversity and they had to rise above that adversity. And so you're not only are you an inspiration, but your books are an inspiration.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Yeah.